Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. So visit FanDuel.com today to get started. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you, wrapping up the week with this here fandango known as the Matador Mob Mailbag. The mobsters take the wheel, and we head wherever they want to go. Couple of predictable directions we will head to today, however. Whole lot of hoops thoughts that we'll dive into, but there will be some variety since it's the spice of life and the spice of the Matador Mob Mailbag. We'll get to some questions as we are nearing spring football for Joey McGuire and the Red Raiders, some position battles that Chris might be looking forward to. We'll also get to some comparisons from a basketball standpoint of some of the most successful teams we've seen come through and how this team could stack up, how the opposition might be preparing for the Red Raiders from our point of view. Also, JT Toppin, incredible season, maybe headed towards a Conference Player of the Year honor, and I want to put him in a proper historical context if we can, compared to some other Red Raider greats. But, Chris, we're going to kick off our conversation today with the bracket addicts in the audience. And apparently there are a good number of them out there. I appreciated hearing from you all on this question. This is the most popular subject of the week, unsurprisingly, as we get into March. Joe, Jason, Logan, Tyson, Joel, Kirk, Eric, all asking about this. I forgot which one of them even phrased it this way, but I love this line. I can't stop thinking about the bracket. It's good to, I think, confess to that up front. That's how you begin your recovery. But a couple of different ways of asking about the bracket, Chris. Mostly kind of matchup-wise or seeding or region-wise. There's some questions about how you feel like maybe that would stack up from the standpoint of location, but also the type of team that maybe you're wanting to dodge. Do we have legitimate shots still at cruising towards potentially a 2 seed? Some saying the 3 kind of feels locked up. And I think it was actually Brent that was asking about just the general care. Are we getting too bogged down in it? Do you even care from 2 to 3 to 4 where you might wind up? So I think you and I are in this kind of bracket addict category. So let's scratch that itch. How are you feeling this week when it comes to all things bracketology?
Well, this is part of the fun. I do think that. So let me offer up this context before we get into this bracket stuff. At some point, the difference between a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, whatever, it's you look at it and go, oh, we got screwed, or oh man, and then all that gets shot to hell like a half a day into the tournament, and you're like, well, I guess it wasn't like I thought it would be. That's the beauty of this thing. So don't get caught up into, we got an easy path. Oh, we have a nightmare path.
Right.
No, you just take them one at a time. These are all, I've been around every coach that I've been around, and now Tubby, Beard, Grant, and Mark have all taken teams to the tournament, and so much of it is these are mini tournaments, within the giant one, and then because we all get caught up in looking at the whole thing and like potential this and like oh no and then even you dig it down even further and it's hey, play these games in small 4-minute segments. That's all you need to worry about. Worry about 4 minutes at a time, and then do it again, and then again. And so, I does it ultimately matter? Sure, at some level, but don't feel like you're like we won or we were screwed based on where you get sent, who you play against, whatever. I would tell you that, and we'll get into the bracketology stuff in a second. But the other thing is, just generally speaking, this is all about matchups, and what you don't want to see if you're Texas Tech. And I can't sit here and list off the 12 to 14 teams that you don't want to see based on this. But big and physical is not exactly the best thing for you. Okay, you've been able to defeat it and play with it, play against it, certainly. But big and physical is not what I would prefer to necessarily see. But that's just a general comment to which I would offer up. But in some of the specific, bracket questions, getting into your resume. You are thought to be, I think Joe Lunardi had you even before the end of the game against Colorado. He kind of has got you pegged as a 2. I think you're seeing a lot more 3 out there. There's still some that are going to point to you being a 4. That's going to be dictated by what goes on in Tempe, maybe in Kansas City. I do think that the Tempe game, I think it's still going to be a quad 1 opportunity. And that's important to note because I think you're 7-5 in quad 1 games right now. That continued to change, and without you even doing anything, if certain teams win and lose and all that, it's kind of a moving target. But right now, I think you're 7-5, and you would have a chance to move to 8-5. I think, unless other things were to happen, and then it would alter that quad record or whatever, quad 1 record. What you're being dinged on right now? If people are looking at you and saying this is a negative, this is a reason why because it's all about breaking ties. Everybody's got flaws on their resume. Everybody's got things that you look at and go, this is good, but there's plenty that you look at and go, this is bad. Like, here's you an example. Like Oklahoma, I think is like something like 5-13 in the SEC, to which you say, well, there's no way. Right now, they're one of the last teams in. The conference record doesn't matter to the committee. They don't care. It's about who you played, who you beat, where you beat them, all those things. And like your conference record isn't ever shown on the screen as some sort of like, well, look what they did within the Big 12 Conference. They were 3rd place. No, it doesn't matter. This is just your collection of games and what you bring to the table. And I know people want to gloss over this a bit if you're pro Texas Tech, and I get it, but your non-conference hurts you a bit here. Your schedule strength in the non-conference was like 297th, I think, right now. I will say that St. Joe's has started to rattle some wins off. They're now a 20-win team. You lost to them. Maybe if you'd beaten them, it would be helping you. But right now, you've lost to a team that's not really in the field. Okay, you beat Syracuse. They're 12-18 last I looked. You lost to A&M, which would have given you some juice. So that doesn't really hurt you, but there's nothing on that non-conference schedule that's really helping you whatsoever. And several of these teams have a lot of juice that is helping them, that breaks a tie and all that stuff. And ultimately you have 3 losses to teams that are not going to play in the tournament unless they go win their conference tournament, UCF, TCU, and the aforementioned St. Joe's. Those are things that hurt you. The flip side is you have a win that is kind of a quad 1A holy grail of wins, and a win in Houston, which if we stop and call timeout and going, how did you get that done? How in the world did all of that happen that day? I wish we could frame it and hang it up in the old house, because that is worth
and we spotted him a head coach and a conference player of the year candidate.
And yet you got that in your back pocket, and that overcomes some of these things that I've touched on. But it's all about breaking ties. And I
Chris,
still think
I got a sidebar question here. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. And when the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. And FanDuel's live betting feature electrifies every moment. Whether backing your team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch shot, you're never going to miss your chance to get in on the action. Plus, the app, easy to use. And when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. And make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Do you think that kind of win over Houston, does that more so justify not going crazy in the non-conference, in that if you're in the Big 12, you still got this type of value out there? Or
The beauty of being in a Power Four league, well, typically only three leagues can say this because see, Duke is in some level getting knocked on
Yeah.
some of this. The beauty of being in the Big 12, okay, let me just dig down a bit further there, is that you've got so many opportunities typically in most years to build your resume. And this is a prime example.
Yeah.
Like if we've got all these quad one opportunities, but like you look at the ACC this year, it's just Duke and Clemson, and then it's just a big bag of nothing. And so there's going to be people that look at Duke and say they're a 1 seed, they are legit, they hammered Illinois, they went to Arizona and won, and so that's kind of helping lift their resume up because the the ACC is just bad, or it's very average. There's not all these opportunities, and they've just hammered these teams, which they should be doing. But fortunately for you, I think that the numbers are Iowa State and Arizona and the BYUs and the Kansases and the Baylors, and there's some juice in your league, specifically Houston. And so I think I do think though, if you drop it back to 18 next year, which is going to be, you've got to do a bit more in the non-conference, because the Big 12, generally speaking, and we talked about this, you didn't put your best foot forward. And I think the SEC was 14-2 over you in the non-conference. 14-2 is what the SEC's record was over the Big 12. And the Big 12's one of those wins was UCF going to A&M on like opening day.
Right.
So yeah.
Bizarre. All right. Thank you all for that question. In a similar vein, I had to read this one from Bruce, so I'm going to make you have to hear this one. Just track with me here, if possible. It looks like Houston is set for Wichita. So if we win at least the next two, does that make us set for Denver? Is it conceivable UH and Tech can both be in Wichita as 1 and 3 seeds, or 2 and 3 seeds, or 1 or 2 seeds? Those are the most likely seeds for Tech and Houston. Do any of these possibilities have us both in Wichita? Or is it Houston and us in Wichita, and then we're in Denver in all these scenarios? Though I guess both of us could be 2 seeds if we win the Big 12 tournament and beat Houston to do it. But again, that would still likely put us in Denver. Did Bruce answer his own question is my question to you.
So the best way to describe that is it's on the committee. If you are a 1, 2, 3, or 4, it is. This was a business decision. This was an extra. They started this, I don't know, it's been 10, 12, 15 years ago, the pod system. Can't remember exactly what year it was. But it is supposed to reward teams with geography. And again, you go into this year like, this is just how it worked. I mean, the Wichita and Denver and Providence and Milwaukee and Seattle, I think it is. I mean, I'm trying to remember all the first round sites. These were predetermined years ago. So that's just the way it goes. Why is there anything closer? Well, because the Final Four is in San Antonio. Okay, so they're not going to drop everything in one part of the country. And everything. So, but they are trying to reward teams if they earn a top seed, a top 4 seed. They are supposed to have geography on when it works out for them. Mm-hmm. So, in this case, Houston has earned this right. They're going to get to go to the closest first round site to them, which they're going to be in Wichita. So that'll be one of the top seed on one of those pods, and there's another one available. I think you look at yourself, because when Wichita gets bidded out several years ago, who do you think the committee was like, thought they were going to end up there? Mm-hmm. That didn't happen. Bill Self had a bad year, so they don't get to send the Jayhawks there. But their A&M is a possibility. Texas Tech is a possibility. I've seen Alabama as a possibility. Just depends on how it works. I do think that we know enough to know no matter what happens, I just don't know if there's enough. If you were to go 0-2 and you lose to Arizona State and whoever it is on Thursday night, I don't know if that's enough to drop you to a 5. Because at that point, geography's off the map. And you're not supposed to be protected. Sometimes it can work out in your favor if you're a 6-7. Just depends on the way it works. But I do think you're going to Denver or Wichita. And it's an hour further to Denver from Lubbock, I think, ish, give or take, than it is to Wichita, from a driving standpoint. So I don't know what you prefer. I don't want to get caught up into it. Really, it's about I think, being a 2 or a 3, depending on what those second games look like or the Sweet 16 game looks like. And then you get caught up into looking way ahead and you're going, well, dang, I was scared to play this team and they lost in the first round, that
right.
kind of thing.
But you've already cautioned us to that.
I would be really, really, really surprised if you don't end up in either Wichita or Denver based on your resume and those are the two closest. Because four of the top 16 teams will be sent to either Wichita or Denver, and I think you're going to be one of those, of those 4 that gets sent to one of those 2 sites.
All right, Bruce, thank you for that question. This question from Trey: where would y'all rank JT Toppin's season within the annals of Texas Tech basketball? At the time we're having this conversation, also not a completed season, but what have you make of it so far?
Well, it's like in recent memory. I mean, I put it up there with like Bryson Williams, but I think it's better. And I say that, and I'm glad you mentioned that. We still have more to go because I think to validate some of this for this particular team and the way we will talk about it, whether it's individually or for Grant or for just the team in general. And I hate doing this, but this is where you're at. I think you have to at least be into the second weekend of the tournament.
Yeah, I agree.
I just think
you've put yourself in that position as a program, thankfully, to have those kind of standards, right? You're chasing conference championships, but you're also chasing bigger things too.
Yeah, I mean, and I just know so many good teams. I mean, heck, even borderline great teams don't make it out of the first weekend, and that's the beauty of this event. That's why we love it so much. It's just sportsing all over the place, the good, the bad, the indifferent, the whatever. But that's kind of to be talked about or to have some legacy type conversation. That's what it will likely require.
I completely agree. Most legendary portion of the season is still to come, where the legends are made or not. Conference players of the year candidates. Did I pluralize the right words in that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm trying. That's a rare air kind of category. So he's in that category right now. That's a pretty small group, I'd assume, just in some of our kind of modern era memory.
I'll mention some names to you and some of which you're going to go, but hear me out. To me, you have to look at the Houston roster first. They earned the right to have you look at them. You go 18-1, probably 19-1 in this deal. That's insanity to me. That's like unbelievable to maneuver your way through 2+ months and just not have many hiccups and whatnot. And it's the problem that they've got in this conversation is it's like Jawan Roberts or is it LJ Cryer? I don't know if statistically they kind of maybe cancel each other out. I don't know. I think and maybe like a Darion Williams or a Chance McMillan kind of do that with JT a little bit, but I do think JT's got a better case to make. Although folks are gonna point out, like, dude, you weren't even a part of the biggest win of the year. Like, how can you be player of the year along those lines? So there's that. Richie Saunders from BYU, I think deserves to be in the conversation. I think BYU, as the time you and I were sitting here talking, have won 7 in a row. They are a scary team to be trying to play right now. He's won, at last check, he had won back-to-back Big 12 Player of the Week awards, I think. And I would also offer up a Javon Small mention because I think when you look at what they don't have at West Virginia right now, and he's basically doing everything, and they are still winning, and they won at Kansas too, and they did a lot in the non-conference, and I just think he's a really, really good player. Statistically, they're going to be in the tournament. They went and kind of maneuvered their way through that Utah trip and got them a win. Recently to kind of get them on the right side of the bubble and everything like that. So, but there's just I think JT's got a great case for it. I can't sit here and tell you that these others deserve it over him. I don't know if I would buy that. I think JT may in fact be the front runner here.
Can't wait to find out. It'll be an awesome addition.
And you'll find out on Sunday. That's when all that comes out. Player of the year, coach of the year, all Big 12 teams, second team, newcomer, and you should be sprinkled all throughout that whole deal.
I can't wait to find out. And if that comes to pass, then that will be a fantastic addition to the aforementioned Texas Tech basketball annals. Pronunciation important, just a little free broadcasting tip. Thank you for that question. This one from Jeff. How does this year's men's basketball team compare to the Final Four team? And how would you imagine maybe an opponent might be preparing for the Red Raiders?
Well, okay, the similarities we've kind of discussed in that there's a variety of ways they can beat you. The chameleon aspect to it. Want to slow it down, you want to speed it up, you want to do this or that. We can, our defense can help us win a game, our offense can help us win a game. And my favorite thing about this particular team that Grant's coaching right now, there's just as good as JT's numbers are, I just have never felt like he's just carrying you and everybody else come along.
I agree.
Just hop on. It's just not that way. I think they play beautiful music on most nights because it all plays off of each other. And again, this is the better part of the player of the year conversation, is that you can do it without somebody like JT. You've got enough skill and all those things. You can go win a monster game without him being a part of it. How I try to attack them, I try to beat them up. I try to get very physical with them. I try to get JT in foul trouble. I try to, take away the 3-point line and run you off the line. And I try to get in your face and be real physical with you and all of those kinds of things, which a little bit more, some of that will be allowed in the tournament. Yeah. They're not going to call it as tight at times, typically speaking, but that's why I say big and physical. And big and physical isn't about just post play. It can be, your guards and wings and all that. But I just like you've got enough skill, and Elijah Hawkins can get up underneath people and cause problems and make people feel very uncomfortable. So there's some counters to what I'm saying, but that's what I am trying to do to you to try to make you feel uncomfortable. But yeah. And again, everybody's tried to do different things to you this year. You've seen a bit of everything. You've seen zone, you've seen man, you've seen in your face, you've seen size and length. That's the beautiful part about playing in the Big 12. Nothing should scare you. Even if you roll up against an Alabama or an Auburn, a Tennessee, a Duke, they will have major problems you must contend with. But you have dealt with these things in different aspects all season long since January started.
No doubt. All right. Thank you, Jeff, for that question. Here's an outside the box question from Jeremy. Would you be in favor of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament being played on campuses? Seems unlikely, but it worked for football. Would it make the tournament more or less exciting?
Yeah, I would not. I would not be in favor of that. No, I think that the women's tournament does this or used to, and that's a business decision, trying to increase ticket sales and all those kinds of things. I like the neutral site, man. I think that's part of the ambiance of it. That's part of the tricky aspect of maneuvering your way through trying to win 6 in a row and cut down the nets. I think that's just part of the deal. And I don't think they need to do this. I think the women's tournament example that I gave you, that they used to do this, and then the football part of it, they're doing that because that's what is best for business. The men's tournament, I don't think, has to do that. Not that some sites are more well attended than others. Sure. You can typically, like if you're looking online right now and you want to try to go ahead and beat everybody to the punch and get tickets to Denver or to Wichita, Kansas, you can go get tickets right now. But they'll all get scooped up once the brackets are announced and all that, but they don't need to make that decision from a business standpoint. And I think it would, in some ways, take away a little bit. I don't want to, like, what you're saying is do it like baseball does it. And that's why, to me, the basketball tournament is the hardest one to win of any of the postseason events. Now, maybe football, now that they've tweaked it, is maybe a bit difficult too. Yeah. But like baseball, you don't even have to leave your home park if you're one of the top seeds until you get to the World Series.
Yep.
And I think there's a huge advantage there.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that question, Jeremy. And I think I'd mostly agree with you. It's just, it's too uniquely special of an event if you've ever had the pleasure of attending an NCAA tournament weekend, you already know. And if you hadn't, I would highly recommend it. It's been a long time since I've been. I hope to get back around maybe this year or soon to come. I think the last time I was there in person was when we were pitsnoggled in beautiful Albuquerque, America. Sweet 16 run with Ronald Ross, New Mexican legend.
Yeah.
I can tell by your head nod you recall,
I
and
was
you also
there.
don't wish to discuss any further.
Yeah, I was there. I was there in the building with my father-in-law, and
but man, it's just so much fun having those different fan bases and watching those other games that you're not involved in. You get swept up in that. It's just there's really nothing like it. So
yeah, I'm with you.
I'd like to keep it there as well. All right, hard left here, switching gears. Talking Red Raider football, Dallas is wondering about any first impressions maybe you've heard about. He says through your various grapevines when it comes to our new defensive coordinator. Any early reports about Shill Wood?
Well, I think a lot of energy. I think that Joey is a big fan of the guy that he's brought in to run his defense from. Not just an X's and O's, but like the culture part of it. I think Coach Wood is going to be a really good fit here. Obviously, he's got Coach Green, with him that they work together on multiple occasions. And I think though that Coach Wood is probably looking at this situation going, wow, because look where my office is. Look what we just acquired. And like, I'm telling you, man, like he's obviously he brought in the Holmes kid from Houston with which he coached, but then Skylar Gill Howard and Lee Hunter and some of these Romello Heights, some of these pieces up front and an entirely new secondary. I mean, I don't want to go crazy or anything, but I just think that some of this being terrible on defense is going to come to a stop extremely fast. And very quickly, and I just, but I think it's just thumbs up across the board on Coach Wood. Now, ultimately, the proof's in the pudding, and we'll see what it looks like when it all starts to matter and all those things. Because theoretically, I mean, Oregon State will be your first test, and then when you go to Salt Lake City, and those are both against running quarterbacks. And when you take on the Beavers and you take on the Utes, and so because how many times has the running quarterback just been our Achilles heel over the years?
Yeah, lost count.
To where you just go, oh my gosh, like you got him stopped, and then 3rd and 16, he runs for 17. And then like 3 plays later, touchdown, insert opponent here. And it was all because you had him dead to rights and then you just couldn't. So I think that's what I would be most fascinated in, and that's why the defensive line was so key, is just the ability to, and like Michael Dingle maybe being like in line to be a starter at the Star, and like you're putting a lot of speed on the field all of a sudden here, and so the running quarterback may not be able to have their way with these Red Raiders like we've seen in the past. But I'm curious to see how Coach Wood handles and what buttons he pushes. But yeah, I think well liked, and I think that a lot of people are excited about that side of the ball for sure.
All right. Thank you for that question, Dallas. This one from Nemo, who says, I noticed Cameron Valdez still listed on the roster. Are we expecting him to make any impact next season, especially with the addition of Joyner and the emergence of Dickey and Williams?
I have my questions there. I just think it's an injury situation and just I think he would be like a 4th or 5th in most scenarios right now as it relates to like a depth chart or whatever. I think Dickey and Williams and Joyner are kind of the 3 that should likely get the playing time. I don't know. I mean, is this a question worth asking when roster limits are set? I mean, does he? I don't know what this looks like. This is somebody that tried to leave a year ago and then ended up circling back, and then was not able to really factor in much this year. So I think it's a fair player and question to ask and a player to ask about. Yeah.
Yeah. And if it seems like that reality is clear from the outside looking in right now. Got to really wonder from his perspective what he thinks it's looking like, and maybe if we'll see some movement in the next window. But somebody that probably is kind of forgotten about among Red Raider fans at this point in time, and partially due to the fact that it was so exciting at that position, not just with Brooks, obviously, but the future and the glimpses that we got of both the freshmen, but particularly as the year went on, Jacoby Williams seemed to really begin to blossom. All right, thank you for that question. Joe wants to know what spring position battle you're most interested in. If I remember right, I think you've been making some references to some defensive back or cornerback competition among some others. Does that lead the list?
Yeah, I think that's a fair one. I think you have 5 possibilities that could start for you at corner. Now we get into position battle. I would want to offer up though that it's like Mo Horn and your 4 your new additions would be like the 5 that I'm talking about, and we can get caught up into some of this, but I mean, like, I just think like some of these positions, like the running back position, like we were just talking about, does it really matter to me if Williams, Dickey, or Joyner are the starter? No, because they're all going to play. 2-back stuff. I don't know who I just don't envision a Taj Brooks scenario where like one dude gets the bulk. Okay, corner. It's a little bit different, but you need a 3rd, a 4th, and a 5th corner, whether it's nickel, whether it's different packages, they all play. And I don't know if there's anybody that's just head and shoulders above everybody to where like you're never coming off the field. I don't know. But the Mississippi State young man, Bryce Pollock, I think is how I'm saying that correctly. I think he's really on a lot of NFL radars. And I think that there's a lot of folks like at the next level that go, that guy is really good. He's got a chance. And I'm not saying that automatically makes him, okay, well, then that means he's going to – no, you got to go earn it and all the things. But this is why it was such a big deal for Darcel McBath, who was at Mississippi State and was like, answer the phone, Bryce. And he did. And now we have things going in Lubbock. But that's one, yes. I think offensive line is certainly one, and it may be as much about some of the different options. I think you could get caught up into tight end too if you wanted to on Terrence Carter or John Carlos Miller, but again, both will play. Trey Jackson is a name I would remember too. He is the young buck, and do not forget his name. Do not. And so so there'll be some things that emerge and whatnot, but that's just a kind of a little glossing over some different spots that we would be looking at and curious about.
All right. And would love to hear from you out there chiming in with yours. Either text us if you're a Matador Mobster or chime in there in the YouTube comments. Thank you for that question, Joe. Next question coming from Jeffrey, who asks, do we have any shot of landing Monterey's Aaliyah Chavez? But to hear that answer, you'll need to be a Matador Mob insider. So hit the show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial. That's your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. For those on the outside, this is where we leave you. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you don't miss a thing. And become a Matador Mobster today for less than a cup of coffee a month so you can get the full Mailbag experience next week. And if you do it fast enough, I've even been known to send out the Mailbag OT just because I'm that generous of a guy. If you'll just let me know, you can hop on in. There's no hard and fast deadline, but have a great weekend, everybody. Join us for an upcoming episode. We'll get ready for Red Raiders and Sun Devils as Tech and Chris Level visit Tempe, Arizona. Chris, appreciate your time all week, man. Enjoyed it, and wishing you safe travels this weekend.
I appreciate it. I'm about to be a well-traveled young man or old man, something. But traveled, yes. Yeah, bring it on, man.
Yes, sir. All right, get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. And thanks for being out there. Thanks to the everydayers for always riding along as well. And we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.